everybody. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. Welcome to class. Ugh. It's been a long day. I had to leave the house today. It was terrible.
Why?
I had to return something to a store that I don't like.
Oh.
And get rent money. So, had to be done. Unfortunate, but hopefully won't have to do that again for another 4 weeks or so. So we'll be good. Just kidding. I leave the house slightly more than that. Not a lot. I'm not exaggerating that much, but just saying.
So I have I dropped my ukulele off at the Big Bang to have the
low G.
Yeah, to have the low G put on. Now on the banjolele, does that use the same strings as a ukulele does?
As far as I know, it does.
Yeah.
I'm 99% sure it does. David, it does, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so then I'll drop that off next to have it done.
There you go. I'm glad to see the converts. I was watching some YouTube videos that it was really funny. There's a lot of like purists out there, like ukulele purists that are like, you're bastardizing the instrument and it's not what a ukulele is and all that. I just think it's so crazy how these people come out of the woodwork in every type of hobby. There's people like that. There's people like that in music. There's people like that in cars. There's people like that in food. You know what I mean? Like, no, you never put basil with this or whatever. Like there's always people like that. But let me tell you, since I put a low G on my ukulele, I've been a much happier player. So
that's cool.
And that's all that matters.
That is all that matters. My generation knows that. My happiness is what matters.
That's right.
What about you, Chris? So
that's right. 100%.
I just want to say you're all a bunch of wusses for not wanting to play in the park today. I'm just saying.
Listen, I don't want to say it. I would have done it. It wasn't terribly cold today. Like I said, I did leave the house, but an executive decision was made, so we're fine. It is what it is. I
support that decision.
Yeah, and I think people are
that.
There you go. People are getting something out of the class too. I think so it's not a bad thing to continue.
No, I'm just teasing you.
I know. I'm a little guilty about not doing it, but whatever.
Only a little.
Only a little. Very. It's really. It's fleeting. Really, it'll be gone very soon.
He's already over it.
It's true, actually. Yeah, I have guilt about so much other stuff. I just don't have room for this. That's all. All right, we're gonna give it another second or two, see if people sign on, and then we'll start. We'll start with our normal setup. You ask me a question, and I attempt to answer it in as long-winded a way as possible, and that's how we go. We'll get as much information as we can, and then hopefully that'll bleed into someone else's question, and onward we go.
So how long does it take to get a ukulele restrung? Like, what should I expect?
They're doing absolutely nothing in that store. So if it takes them more than a day, I'll be shocked. Yeah, I mean, my poor, you probably met Amy, the girl who was in there.
Actually, I don't really go into places. I had my husband bring it in.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Poor Amy has been basically just sitting in there alone for the past, 6 months or so, 5 months. Nobody goes in for lessons. Nobody goes in to buy. Every now, I think they even their rentals for school they haven't done this year, which is actually might be a really big problem for them, because that's a big part of their yearly income.
Well, I hope they applied for the for the PPE grants. They've been so helpful to so many small businesses.
They absolutely have. And I told my boss about it. I'm not going to make any comment about whether or not I believe that he went for it, but because I don't know.
Right.
He's it's there, and he definitely qualifies.
Right.
So, I'm hoping he does it.
I'm on the board of this children's center where we provide services to children with disabilities. And we jumped on it because we didn't want to, we went to telemedicine and we wanted to keep all the staff.
Right. And did you qualify?
Yes,
Oh,
because we're a nonprofit
that's excellent.
and
Good,
we could
good.
show our payroll and all that stuff.
That's good.
It's been an unusual year, that's for sure.
Oh man, for everybody. But there is some help out there if you have a small business, and
Yes.
it's definitely it's there to help, and take advantage of it if you are one of those people. All right.
But 2021 is going to be better.
Fingers crossed.
I feel it. I feel
Oh,
it.
it's inevitable.
Well,
Yeah, it can't get worse.
the only thing that and maybe I don't want to get into this too deep, so I'll say it quickly. The only thing that scares me is that they've been saying this thing about a possible pandemic for years. I mean, all the people in that sector that are keeping track of all these viruses have been saying there's going to be a problem. You guys, there's going to be a problem. We've got all these viruses that we're tracking in animals. And what happens is once they transfer from animals to humans by whatever means, then we don't have the immunity, and then it becomes a pandemic. And they're tracking something like 150 other viruses right now, some of which are far worse than what COVID was, and it's frightening because we saw how badly we dealt with this, and this was yes, people passed away, and it's a terrible virus. It wasn't quite as bad as they could be. It wasn't airborne in the beginning, and it's not really airborne now. They're just saying it just hangs around on surfaces and way longer than they initially thought it did. But if you get one that's super transferable in the beginning, it'll make COVID-19 look like a joke, and that's it's frightening.
Well,
because
if something like Ebola comes around and it's airborne on top of that, that could wipe out half the planet.
That's what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
we saw the response, and the response was not great. It wasn't great. I mean, we ran out of resources very quickly, it just wasn't handled in a very good way. And this wasn't even, it was almost like a test, and it may not have, there's no guarantee that these things are going to happen, but we've been warned, and we're still getting warned. And I feel like people still aren't paying attention, even after all this.
Exactly.
But it is what it is. Everybody be safe. And I'm glad that for everyone that is healthy, and and that doesn't negate the loss that people had. It was terrible. This was terrible. But hopefully we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll pull out of this. And that's it, and maybe other countries will tighten up their belts better than we did, and keep it.
And
from
maybe
crossing
next
over.
go round we will have learned something.
I hope so, man. I do hope so.
Bill Gates did a TED Talk in 2015 warning exactly of
Pandemics.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Bill Gates has been talking about this for years and years and years.
2015.
Yeah. He's been saying the biggest thing we have to worry about is a pandemic. It's the biggest, and he was saying back then we're nowhere near prepared. We don't have any of these vaccines prepared. For all the viruses that they're tracking, they could start developing vaccines now for the ones that are in the animals already, right? And just even if we never use them, we could have them on reserve. Imagine how much more prepared we would have been if we had a vaccine for COVID-19 when it hit. Just sort of sitting in the fridge somewhere, I don't want to take away any more from the class, but yeah. So welcome everybody. Everybody's here.
Good point, Bill.
Thank you. I tried. Here we go. And Vicky, that was, excellent point too. No. So you guys get to ask questions. I get to answer them, and we go on from here. Yes, Dee.
Of course, I have a question.
No, that's fine. Go right ahead.
Look what I got, an early Christmas present.
Wow. Very cool.
Buddy, I can't see it. Let me go.
Is it a tenor?
It's bigger than, this is what I've been using.
Right. Oh yeah, is that a concert size? Is that what you ended up getting?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's awesome. How's it fit your hand? Good?
Yeah, very good. It's perfect. But
Excellent. What's your question?
I can't tune it.
Oh God. I hear this question every time someone gets a new ukulele. It's so what's the issue? What
My tuner will tell me that it is the right thing, and then when I go to play it, it's horrible.
all right, play a C chord. Do that again. One more time. Oh yeah, that's way out of tune. Okay, hit your low G string for me.
I don't think it's a low. I think it's a regular.
Oh, hit your G string for whatever it is.
That's the fourth string, right?
Yeah, that's out of tune. Hit the next one. Wow, that's way out of tune. Next one. That's pretty much fine. And the next one. That has to go up a little bit too. Yeah, so you should put your tune. Do you have a regular tuner or are you using, you have like a clip-on tuner?
Yeah.
All right. So tune it up to the, I'm going to mute you, tune it back up again. And then when you come back, we'll take a listen to it and see what the problem is. All right.
Okay.
All right. All right. Who's next? There's 12 of you. Somebody's got to have a question.
Well, I'll jump in with one.
Sure, Paula. What do you got?
All right, last week you answered very well how I can tell what key the music is in.
Okay.
So I know that first chord usually is the first key. From that first chord, how do I figure out what the first note is if I don't want to sing off key? If I want to use that as a guide, or can I?
Well, that's a good question. And it's really hard to say because every song is so different, right? Herb, I think, has those in there. Either the place he took them from had it or Herb did it himself. I'm not sure.
No, if the song sheet had it, I included it, but most song sheet don't have it.
Some song sheets have it, some song sheets don't.
Also, do not have it.
The only tried and true way to find the first note that you sing is to go and listen to a song that's in the same key that somebody sings it and figure it out from there, right? There's not really a way that I know of from just playing a chord that you could figure out, because I could sing any note to a chord, right? Generally, it'll be one of the notes in the key. So let's say that it's in the key of C major, right? Generally, the note that you start singing on will be C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Probably not B, because that sounds really weird up against the C. And probably one of the first three notes. So maybe that'll help you narrow it down. It's either, so if it's in C major, it'll be either a C, D, or an E. Probably not. And that's the thing about music, is that it's so varied, and you could really sing, you could start anywhere within the key, and unfortunately sometimes you could even sing a note out of the key. It might sound a little weird, but it might work for that first note depending on the song. So that's not really a great answer, I know, but if I had to give you a guide, it would be within the first 3 or 4 notes of the scale, right?
So it's not necessarily
a C or a D or no.
In that first chord, one of the in the first chord.
Not necessarily. Probably, but not necessarily. It's probably something like 90%.
Well, I'll go with 90% and risk it.
It's a good place to start, picking one of those notes, and what you could do is sing each one of those notes and go, does that sound like the song?
Yeah.
Right?
Or find the sheet music.
So that's the other way. That's the other way, is to find the sheet music that has the melody, and the melody is the sung part, right? And that will tell you on the sheet what note to sing. And just to give you, for all of you who have never really read sheet music before, I'll give you a very quick, easy rundown on how to read sheet music, okay? You've got the spaces, right? The spaces in between the lines. Let me show you a staff. It's called a staff. And I'll show you really quick how to kind of figure out notes. At least this is how I do it. So here you have the staff. This guy right here. This symbol in the shape of a G is called a treble clef, sometimes called a G clef. You'll find most of the melodies are in this type of format. Now you see how there's a space here, space here, space here, and a space here. The spaces spell out the word face. So this space is an F, this space is an A, this space is a C, and this space is an E. From the bottom, from the floor to the top, is FACE in the spaces. And each one going up through the lines is the note in between. So we've got F, the line will be G, and that makes the space A, right? The line will be B, that makes the space C. The line will be D, that makes the space E. And then the top line here will be F again. And sometimes this would have been a better one to show you. Right there. There you go. So you can remember that the spaces are all FACE, and the lines go in alphabetical order between them, right? So it's easier to find notes that way. Now, what about sharps and flats? So what'll happen is you'll have the sharp or flat. Let me see if I can find an example. Yeah, at the beginning of the piece of music. So so either it'll be in the note itself like this, like in the staff. So this is a C sharp, right? Because it's in the third space and there's a sharp before it. Or it'll have a flat. So this is an A flat because there's a little B, which means flat right before this note, which is an A. Sharp means that the note goes forward one fret. Flat means it goes backward one fret. Very simple. And sometimes you'll see sharps or flats like this at the very beginning of the staff. And what this means is that every single note on this line, right? This is an E, right? Every one of these E's is going to be flat. Because way at the beginning of the staff, there's a little flat here. So what Paula was saying is if you could find the sheet music for a song that has the melody in it, and the melody is the part that's sung, right? So if we were doing Jingle Bells and we said, jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way, the melody is up, 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 da, 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 da. That's the melody part, right? Generally, that's the part that's sung pretty much every time. And if you can find a piece of sheet music that has that laid out, you could find out exactly which notes you need to sing. Now, I recommend trying to do it by ear, but I also understand that can be difficult. It can be difficult, and sometimes it might be easier to find, oh, I'm supposed to sing an E here or whatever it is. But try to hear it out, right? Try to listen to it. Listen to that first note that a person sings, and then try to find it on the ukulele rather than the other way around, right? It's good to develop your ear. It's the primary thing that you use when you make music, right? I mean, it's one of the most important things you have, and you can do it. You can train your ear to start to pick up on pitches. And all of you are, you're none of you are tone deaf. I can say that. Some of you might disagree with me, but you're not. I promise you. And I've actually been reading a lot of articles that tone deafness is actually really rare. It's generally just people haven't been exposed to enough music in their lifetime or haven't paid enough attention to it that they can differentiate pitches. But almost all of those people can be taught. right? You can start to hear it differently. So yet again, I managed to make this into a much longer proposition than
Well, I'm
it
gonna
should have
let you
been.
go longer because I have an add-on question.
Oh, perfect. What do we got?
So the string that is tuned as C
Yep.
is that middle C on the piano?
Oh man, that's a good
Am I
question.
getting too deep?
No, that's just a good question. Let me go find middle C. Give me 1 second. I just got to turn on my piano software because I don't have a piano sitting with me, but I do have a program.
Or when you play the C chord, which is just which string is C?
Well, when you play a C chord, a C chord is made up of the notes C, E, and G, right? So you've got G, you got C, you've got E, and you've got another C, which is why you have to put your your finger down on the 3rd fret 1st string. That makes it a C.
So that high one there would not be.
That's way
Middle
higher than
C.
middle C, I think. But this might be middle C.
But you have a low G on there,
Yes.
so your low G might be middle C.
Well, no, low G can't be middle C because it's a G. Middle C is a C.
Oh, never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. It's all right. Listen, I've said stuff like that too. Don't feel bad at all. Don't feel bad at all. Oh, I can't.
Okay.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me see. It'll tell me what number C this note is. Just give me a half a second here. Let's see here. So I'll put a piano right here and here. And piano. I think so. It's not giving me the number of what the C is, unfortunately. But it's really, I really think it is middle C. Where's the keyboard? Come on.
It would make sense.
I might have a piano that I could check.
Yeah, it's the middle C is the key right above the lock of your piano. Like if you would have a like a lock to shut the top of it. Does that make sense? Or literally the key dead in the middle of the keyboard. Oh, look at Vicky going to hunt it down. I think it is though. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Because that's kind of when you're learning piano, that's kind of where they have you start.
Right. Yeah. The C major chord, and the reason that they
Every
use C
instrument.
major so often is because C major has no sharps or flats,
Right. Yeah.
so it's much easier to learn. If you play a white key, you're playing in the key of C major. I know that might sound weird, but it's true. All of those notes are in C major. It is. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Vicky. Vicky confirms it. It is definitely middle C.
Thank you, Vicky.
Definitely middle C. All right. Any further questions, Paula?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
No problem. Dee, did you get that tune? You want to unmute it so we could hear that C chord, see what it sounds like?
Yeah,
All right. Let's hear what it sounds like.
still doesn't sound right.
Yeah, that's right.
It's better.
Here's what's happening. It's brand new, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's two things that are likely happening when you get a brand new ukulele. A, the strings are probably still stretching some. And B, you happen to get a wooden instrument at a very bizarre time in the year to have a wooden instrument, because right now your heat's starting to kick on, the air is getting drier, the temperature is dropping. All of these things affect wood, period. It just does. So what could be happening is your neck actually warps a little tiny bit, either this way or this way, When it dries up, actually, it tends to come in this way,
Not a
like
good
it'll
time to
bow
move,
a little
but
bit.
my daughter.
And when it bows, it puts less pressure on the strings and they go out of tune,
Right,
right?
okay.
So
It doesn't bow enough that you're gonna actually physically see it, will you?
usually not, but it depends on your house. Like if you have forced air heat, you really should get a humidifier. They're not super expensive. You could get them on,
I got one, yeah.
yeah. And then get a hydrometer. What a
But my
hydrometer
daughter
is,
just put a bid.
what?
Marcia is talking.
Oh.
She's not muted.
Yeah, I just muted her. Sorry, Marcia. You can come back whenever you want. A hydrometer will tell you, whoa, relax. Relax. Okay. Woo, it must be someone outside. A hydrometer will tell you the percent of the humidity, just like the weatherman, where he says, 40% humidity today, whatever. In your house, if you have wooden instruments, you want it to be at 50. If it goes below 40, you've got a big problem. And if it goes above 60, you've got a big problem. You want it.
Really, you only have that
It's really
20?
10% either way, unfortunately. Yeah, if it gets too wet or too dry in your house, your instruments will suffer. When I lived in a person's house that I wasn't able to do anything with the air quality, one of my guitars, the bridge, actually tore off of the top of the guitar because it got so dry and the neck bowed so much that it put so much pressure on this thing, it ripped it off the body. I was laying in bed and I heard a pop.
Yeah.
And it tore the thing right off of the top of my guitar. Yeah. And it was because it got so dry. When I brought it to somebody to try to get it repaired, he's like, "You need a humidifier, man." I'm like, "Oh, well, thanks. That helps." But it's a real thing. And you'll notice that your ukuleles all are going out of tune and it's like a weird, what's going on? That's the humidity, the dryness. And right now is when it's the worst because it's like a shock to the wood, right? Because it's getting dry very quickly. So if anybody's experiencing tuning issues, the absolute worst thing for an instrument on the face of the planet Earth is radiant heat from the floors. So if you've got like pipes, like hot pipes that go through the floor, or if you've got heated floors, or if you've got any of that stuff, keep your instruments off the ground. The second worst thing is forced hot air because it's always very, very, very dry.
That's what I have.
Yeah, and if you have that, that's drying out your house, guaranteed.
Okay.
And honestly, keeping your humidity around 50% is generally also better for your health. I mean, it just, that's what they say,
Yep.
And you could even get one that has one of those infrared purify, all kinds of cool stuff, that takes impurities out of the air, like whatever floats your boat. So yeah,
Okay.
but you can get one for like $30. A hydrometer you can get for like $10. So for $40 you could save your instruments from really serious damage at some point if you're not careful.
Right. Okay.
But it's also probably because your strings are stretching as well because it's a brand new instrument. So keep tuning it. It's annoying in the beginning. Keep tuning it, but after like 4 or 5 times of tuning it, it should stay in tune and stay that way. And if you're still having problems, it's definitely the dry air.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
Thank you.
How are those humidifiers that we pop inside the ukulele? I came with the
Those are great too. And people use them when traveling all the time. And
okay.
When traveling, especially in drier climates and things like that, they seem to have pretty good success with those. And what Jane is talking, Vicky, you're next. What Jane is talking about is there are these humidifiers you can get online that have like a ring that you sort of hang into the sound hole like this. You fill them with tap water and then you hang them in the sound hole. And they work. They do work. And the cool thing about them is as they run out of water, they shrivel up. So you could like tell that they're out of water. Yeah, it's pretty funny. And you refill them, and as long as you keep them refilled and keep your instrument mostly in a case, it should be okay. But if you want to keep your ukulele out, which I do recommend because I feel like people play their instruments more when they're accessible. Then I recommend that you keep in mind it's a wooden and wood is, even though it's carved into an instrument, it's still alive in some ways. It still needs to be wet, right? at least to a certain degree. Otherwise, it will dry out. It'll shrivel up. It'll crack. I mean, there's so many problems you'll get from that kind of thing. But the sound hole humidifiers are a great second bet if you don't want to go for the humidifiers and all that stuff. I've also seen people take soap dishes and sponges, poke a bunch of holes in the soap dish, take a sponge, moisten it, don't get it sopping wet, moisten it and squeeze it out, put it in the soap dish, close it, and then put it in the case with your instrument, and that could keep it humidified enough. It's the same principle as those sound hole humidifiers. It just slowly evaporates into the case, you know.
I actually just went in the basement. I wanted to show you this. We have this little doodad.
That's a hydrometer. You
Exactly.
are pretty low. You're pretty
You know what,
low.
Mike? I know, but 35 is pretty low.
35 is pretty low.
I
Yeah,
know.
you're
We
in the
have-
danger zone for sure. And that
but
was in
I
the
went from
basement?
Walmart. Yeah, because in the summer, it's the opposite. So we run our dehumidifier because
Yeah.
that's his thing. He's a conservator, so he's into humidity.
Good.
Wood should be at 50% relative humidity.
That's what
for
he was
storage.
saying.
Yeah,
Agree with-
50% would be ideal for like I said, not only for your instruments but for your general health. From what I've read, 50% is ideal.
In March,
Is low, especially for a basement. That's crazy.
Well, this was right next to the furnace, so that's why.
Oh yeah, that could have something to do with it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have the exact same one.
Yeah, it came from Walmart. It was like, I don't know, $10 or something like that.
Yeah, they're not very expensive, and you just glance at it, and if it's too low, you pop up. The only thing is that dehumidifiers can be a little pricey. The humidifiers you can get pretty cheap because it's basically just an element and some water, right? Like that's all it is. Dehumidifiers, for whatever reason, cost a little bit more. I managed to get one because my mom's boyfriend had one in his basement that he didn't use, so I got super lucky. But they're a little bit pricey. Like I went to Home Depot at first, and they're up there with air conditioning units. I mean, they could be $200-300. So
that's how a dehumidifier works. Think about your air conditioner.
it's
It
the
has to drain.
condensation, right?
Condensation, right.
Yeah, it works just the same way.
And they drain as they operate, which is why a house has to have place for the water to go, whether it's just dripping out the window or it's going into the sewer.
Mine collects in a bucket, a bin that I have to empty every now and then. Luckily, it shuts off by this cool mechanism. When it gets too heavy, it clicks on a lever and shuts the thing off. So I have to empty it every time. But but it does the trick. And having both, you can ensure that you won't have to repair your instruments. And in some cases, humidity damage you can't fix at all. That's could be a major problem for a ukulele. And I know a lot of you have invested in some pretty nice ukuleles. So, you want to keep that in mind, because very few people would know right up front that like the weather could destroy your instrument, So definitely.
Yeah, my neighbor actually stored his drum kit in his attic. In his drum kit.
Out?
To be, yeah.
Yeah.
He had a nice kit.
Yeah, and that could destroy the whole kit. It's sad when that happens, because drums.
He had a kit that I wanted when I was in my 20s.
Oh man. Oh, that's so cool. Well, yeah, it's a shame, man. A shame when that happens. All right, moving along. Vicky, yes, you are next.
So you said just tap water. My question is not about it's not about the tap water or that, but you did tap water. But before you had said it was not tap water. It was
distilled water is the
Distilled
best.
water.
Yeah,
Okay.
distilled water is the best. The thing about tap water is there could be some mineral residue when you use it, I guess, and it could leave
Yes.
like a. But if you're changing it constantly, and you're keeping aware of that fact, it seems to be okay as long as you're cleaning it out. Distilled water would be best and safest. Yes, I will 100% say that.
Okay,
And the whole main reason was, you're right. I kind of forgot about this, but at my dad's house, he had a bunch of guitars, which I ended up inheriting, and there was like a white film over all of them, like this white kind of powdery stuff over all
chemicals.
the guitars. And I think it was from the tap water. And in
Yes.
Hillsborough in particular, the water is particularly
Heavy.
chemically. No offense, guys. I don't have great water either, but yeah, I know that. And I know where he was. He was in Belmead, and it wasn't the greatest water in the universe, and that probably had something to do with it.
Okay. My question was really more about picking. And last week you said something about having your fingers like in a traditional shape. All right. So you'd be playing a song and it might be a G, for example. And then you would be able to pick, I mean, you know, like, and the only one I could think about, the one that we do is Here Comes the Sun, you know.
Oh, right.
Right.
Whole thing. Right.
Right. So your fingers are in that G shape. Okay. So you just use the notes that are in there.
Yes.
But is there a way, like, let's just say, I don't even know what song, let's just say Jingle Bells, for example, since that's what you were using. Would there be a way to play Jingle Bells, picking and strumming with your fingers on the key shapes? Does that make any sense? It doesn't have to be Jingle Bells, but you know, just can you think of a song?
Jingle bells, so yeah. Like that?
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So what I'm doing, and what I was just doing when I was trying to figure it out, was I was thinking of the melody, right? Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Now in Jingle Bells, most of the first part of it is a C chord, right? So now where is that first note? Jingle bells, jing. It's the second note, which is E. So it's an E against a C, which, to answer Paula's question, a C major chord is C, E, G. So this happens to be, like I said before, the second note of a C major chord, which is the first note of the melody Jingle Bells. So Jingle Bells. Now, I'm not really picking and strumming at the same time. I strummed for the jingle, like for the first syllable, jing, and then the go bells is the second string open, because that's an E. Jingle bells, and then you do it again. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Now to get that was I'm going to turn on my tuner to cheat it and make it look like I know notes right off the top of my head. That's a G, E, G, open C, but a low C this time. So that's the third string. Then a D. So it's second fret of the third string. Open E again. Sorry. Yeah, open E. C, D, E. So jingle bells, jingle all the way. And that last way, you can strum it as well. Now, the trick to that is whenever you play, the melody plays just a C note, you can strum the whole C chord. Does that make sense? So you're just accentuating that C. So it's seagull bells, seagull bells. That's a good one. Seagull all the way, and on the way you can play a C as well. So it'd be like this. And you could do that while still leaving so you can leave your third finger on the third fret first string to play that C, and play all the other notes with your first and second finger, right? So you're constantly leaving that third finger down. So let me show you the picking up close. I don't think I'm sharing anything. No, okay. So it's like this. Bum, 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 bum. So it is possible you happen to pick a song that has a very easy chord progression in the beginning, though. I mean, it just stays on that C for almost the whole, like the first 2 to 4 measures are just that C chord, right? It doesn't change until "Oh what fun," right? So that whole first part is just a C chord, so that makes it easy. Will you always be able to find the notes of the melody inside a major chord or whatever the chord is that you're playing? Almost. Most of the time. With pop music, probably yes. If you start to get into slightly more complicated stuff like jazz or, you know, anything maybe blues related, or even some rock and roll stuff that gets a little bit more progressive, I would say maybe not always, but it'll be somewhere. It'll be somewhere. You'll find that note somewhere. And that note will work in the context of that song if you figure out a way to play it. So you may have to, let me see. So when you play an F, that's "Oh what fun it is to ride" is the F chord. That. Now you have to pick the first finger up to get "to ride," right? So it's "Oh what fun it is," then pick up that first finger, "to ride." But you don't want to strum an A minor, which is what that leaves you with. You still want that F, right? An A minor sounds kind of funky there. I don't think that works. Do you understand what I mean when I say an A minor? Because if you pick up your first finger from an F, it leaves you with that A minor, right? And that doesn't quite work. So there are some situations where you may have to improvise a little to make it work. But here's the rule, and this is a little bit like, it sounds like I'm dismissing it, but it's really true. If it sounds good, do it. That's it. Sounds good to you, man. You're making music. That's how it works. It's real easy. That's why so many people do it. Because anybody can do it. You smash a bunch of notes together. I mean, you know, it might sound good to you and not sound good to anybody. Who cares? You just play it in your basement, lock the door, you know? No. But yeah, so what I was doing there was picking the notes in between strumming the chords, right? Playing them at the same time, then you're getting into sort of a finger picking territory, which is playing multiple different notes at the same time while still, you know, but even that's not strumming and picking at the same time. It's always sort of an illusion, right? You're doing things in between things, right? And usually when you see something that looks super complicated in music, even if you see someone play it on a ukulele, it's probably a bunch of really small things strung together that makes it look like it's harder than it is, you know? So just go by ear, try to pick out those notes first, and then see if those notes can be found inside of those chords that you play. And sometimes those notes may be in another version of the chord. So you know how we have a C like this? Well, maybe the C like this, like if you take a B chord and move it up to the 3rd fret, that's a C2. Maybe it's one of those notes, right? It's the same notes, but an octave up, right? Where are they? There we go. Yeah, you can go way up with it. You know, so try to pick out the melody first, and then see how the melody relates to the chords. And if you still have questions, come back next Monday and we'll go over it.
Thank you, Chris.
No problem. Are you trying to unmute, Mom, or are you just poking something?
I'm on my phone, so I'm just trying to see.
Oh, okay.
It's weird
I just
doing
saw
Zoom
you
on my
poking
phone.
at the screen. I couldn't figure out
Yeah.
what you were doing.
I was trying to see who's here.
It's Vicky, Jane, Yaya, and David. David, Beverly, Wei Feng, Herb, Paula, and Dee, Marcia, and you.
Oh, everybody's there. Almost.
Yeah, I'm pretty popular.
Everybody important.
That's right. All the important ones are here.
And humility is your best quality.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. My bravado is all for show, ladies and gentlemen. I have no ego in real life. So All right, moving along. Who else has a question? That was great, Vicky. Thank you. And did that help? Did that answer your question? Okay. And do you have more question? That was good.
That's
Got
good.
me to playing Jingle Bells.
Okay.
Good for today.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Jingle Bells is a cool, it's easy. It's basically C, F, and there's one more, probably G.
Yeah, G.
G7.
It could be G7 too.
G or G7.
Yeah, C, F, C, G7, C. Jingle Bells. And in that, and in the case of Christmas songs, I would call Christmas songs like the ultimate in pop songs, really. So generally speaking, the notes will be found in the chords of Christmas songs in particular, almost always. All right, who's next? Questions? Jane, what do you got?
So like on in White Christmas, they have that big instrumental section where it's the what do you call it? Where they show what you should pick.
Okay. In our version, like we have it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go take a look. I haven't seen
It's number 15.
Okay, let's take a look, see. Number 15.
Or wait a minute.
Oh, look at that.
See it.
Or there's the intro to Here Comes the Sun on.
Well, okay.
Maybe easier to start with. Song
This
174.
This one's pretty. White Christmas is pretty easy. I know it doesn't look like it, but it's pretty easy.
Okay, cool.
All right. So forget the chords up top for now. Okay. Here's how to read tab. If you look at the beginning here, G, C, E, A. Get crazy every afternoon. The bottom line is the G string, whether it's a high G or a low G, doesn't matter. This bottom line straight down is the G string. Next line is C, next line is E, and the next line is A. And the way to think about tab is like, you guys all know how a player piano works, how you feed that music into it and it keeps feeding and it reads those dots and plays the notes based on the dots that it reads. That's what tab is basically. And as your eye scans along the tab, your fingers should play whatever number fret it shows on whatever string, right? So for example, if we're looking at the instrumental part of White Christmas here, there's a 0 on the third line from the bottom, which happens to be the E string, which is the second string. So that's I'm. Then 1 0 3 0 1. That's dreaming of a white. 1 0 is on the E string, and then you'll see that 3 is on the next line under that, which is the C string. So that means 3rd fret, 3rd string. 0 means open, meaning you play that line's string without pressing on anything. So it's if we look at that whole phrase that starts at that C sharp diminished, it's the 1st fret, number 1 is the 1st fret on the 2nd string, then open, then the 3rd fret on the C string, which is the 3rd string, then open again on the E string, then the 1st fret on the E string. So that whole thing taken from the 0 is like this. I'm dreaming of a white, then 2 3. Now, how do you tell how long to play the strings? Unfortunately, you don't. Tab doesn't tell you timing. It'll attempt to give you timing by putting space between the notes, right? So like there's a 0, then there's a bunch of space, then it's the 1 0 3 0 1. Dreaming of a. But that doesn't really tell you exactly how long to hold it. That's the only problem with tab. With tablature, you need to have heard the song before, and then this will tell you the notes to play. And then using your knowledge of what the song sounds like, you can piece together how to play it using tab. With regular notation, which is the one with the circles and dots with the flags on them, that'll actually tell you how long to play each note. So that is an advantage that reading notes has over tab. But tab is much easier to learn. It's much quicker to use. And if you've heard the song before, it works just as well. Does it make sense why I'm saying that you've had to heard the song before? Or does anybody not quite get what I mean by that? All right, good.
Can you just repeat, how do you know what fret to do it?
It's the
I've
number.
heard it.
The number tells you what fret. So as you scan along, there's a 0 on the E string, right? That means play that E string open without pressing a fret at all. That's what a 0 means. Then you get to a 1 on the same line. That means on the E string, you play the first fret.
Okay.
Then there's a 0, so that means you then play, it's in order. You go straight down the line in order. So the next note you play is an open E string. Then you'll see the 3 that jumps to the next line. That means the third fret on the C string. Then open on the E, first fret on the E. What just happened?
What do you,
My lights just went out. Hold on. Can you still hear me?
yeah,
Uh-oh, I lost you. Give me a second. I can't hear you guys. Can you hear
who's
me?
breathing?
Yes,
Yeah,
No, huh?
yes.
yes, yes.
Oh, I can't hear you. So hold on a second. Okay, you guys there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. My foot hit the strip and I hit the red button and turned off my monitor and my whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm back. Hi. Okay. So yeah, it's still shared? You can still see the music there?
Yes.
So that's tab in a nutshell. Now, if you ever see two notes stacked on top of each other, right? So let's say there was a 0 here and a 1 right above it on the A string. That's playing 2 strings at once. So you would play the 0 on the E string and the 1, which would be the first fret on the first string or the A string. So you play them at the same time, which is basically a C7.
Well, if 0 on E is nothing, how
It's
do
not
you,
nothing. It's the string open.
so how do you, oh, so you're just playing those 2 strings.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
got it.
Yes. You would play those 2 strings. 0 doesn't mean nothing. It means, oh, think of it more of an O for open, right? It
Right.
means to play that string without fretting anything at all.
Plucked or strummed.
When you're doing something like this, it really doesn't matter all that much. If it were 2 frets, 2 strings rather, let's say it was a C chord and they wanted you to play the bottom 2 notes. So it would be a 3 on the A string and a 0 on the E string, right? So if you pluck them, it would sound like this. If you strum them, it would sound like this. Not a giant difference between the two to begin with, right? So that's stylistically up to you, unless the tab specifically tells you to do something. Sometimes you'll see a little instruction above it that says like play lightly or pluck or, harmonics or something like that. I don't think I've ever even said the word harmonics in any of these classes, but yeah, that's another thing altogether. Let's see.
So using this sheet as an example, what's the best practice and what fingers to use on the right hand and the left hand?
Best practice for your left hand is a finger per fret, right? As a base. So like if it falls on the first fret, use your index finger. Second fret, use your middle finger. Third fret, use your ring finger. Fourth fret, use your pinky. 9 times out of 10, that'll work out really well for you. As for your left hand, best practice or starting point is your thumb usually can handle the G string, and then you've got your first, second, and third finger to play the second, third, or the third, second, and first string respectively, right? So it would be your ring finger on the first string, middle finger on the second string, index finger on the third string, and thumb on the low G. Some people might even work well using all 4 of their fingers. I mean, you could do like your index finger on the fourth, middle finger on the third, ring finger on the second, and pinky on the first. But I think a lot of people can use their thumb a lot. And you could even use your thumb for the fourth and third string. All that being said, it's really what you're most comfortable with, right? Whatever you can kind of get to that string first. You know, sometimes if the notes are all in a row like that, you could even use one finger to pick all of them. If you never have to pick 2 strings at the same time, who cares, right? You could just sort of take your index finger and do like a, and I was just using my index finger almost like a pick that whole time, right? So that can work too. And again, I know I'm leaving it wide open, but it's what music is, man. I'm not gonna lie and tell you that there are rules. There's not. That's a good baseline, though. It's a good baseline.
So for your right hand, how do you anchor it? Do you put a pinky down or something down so you could anchor and not lose your place?
So what Herb is talking about is having your hand sort of float over top of the string can be a little uncomfortable because it's like just flapping in the breeze there. Now there's different ways to anchor your hand. Most professional players will tell you not to anchor your hand if you can, but forget that because then there's a million other professional players that very much do anchor their hands in some way. So you can plant your pinky right on the face of the ukulele right here and get some like a solid base there, and then you've got your thumb, index, middle, and ring finger still free to play the strings. I am actually stabilizing my whole arm here where my arm meets the ukulele. I'm actually holding it there basically, right? So I'm getting all my stability from there. You could either come over the top like this, or I sort of come from the back or the side, or even kind of up from the bottom and touch it right there. You could do that, you know, with your arm, if that makes you comfortable. You know, you can also just float there, but it sounds like you need some form of stability. So planting your thumb, your pinky can work, or wherever your arm happens to touch the ukulele can work as well. Those are the 2 best places to do it that I can come up with. If anyone else can think of another, I'm not really sure, but I think that those are the 2 places that most people would quote unquote anchor their hand from. Yeah. Did that help? All right. Let's see what we're working with time-wise. We're done. Look at that. Look at my timing.
Christmas has really nice chords. They're really beautiful chords.
Stunning.
Thank you, Chris.
No problem. I meant that, by the way. They were very nice chords. I wasn't
They
being
are
wise.
nice chords.
They are nice chords.
Well, I agree. I've been noodling around. They're nice chords. I agree with you.
Nice. Yeah, it's really fun to play. Just say.
See you guys tomorrow.
Bye, D. Get a humidifier.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
No
I'm gonna
problem.
squeeze in one more.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, Vicky, go ahead. What do you got?
No, just on that same song,
Uh-huh.
can you do a strum and pick with that one too?
Yeah, sure. I bet you can. And here's how you do it. Your melody is already laid out for you.
That's
So,
what I was
so
thinking.
you go through and learn the melody, right? And then you've got the chords up top. And wherever the chords are along the top, that's where you would strum that chord, then pick the notes in between, right? And that's how you would do that sort of strum pick thing there. So what I said initially, which was learn the melody and then play the chords along with the melody. This is good because the melody's already there. You don't have to do it by ear or anything. The tab here is the melody. That's what it is. So if you learn that tab, you can play those chords right along with it. And it should work out pretty well that way.
And that's what one would have to do if you were, let's say, trying to figure out a song. It just means you kind of have to tab it out, right?
Yeah, I mean, if someone's trying to figure out how to do, you would call that like a finger style version of the song or a solo version of the song, meaning you're playing both the backing part, the chords, and the melody at the same time. Yeah, most people would work through it, figure out the melody first, and then figure out how to get the bass notes or the chords along with it, right? And play those two at the same time. And then once you figure that out, you could add little flourishes and things like that and really add some polish to it. But yeah, so and sometimes, and bear in mind that these chord arrangements, these chord progressions in these songs, as they're written in the drive here that Herb puts up, are not necessarily going to be conducive to playing the chord and the note at the same time, right? It's meant for one person to play the chords and another person to play the melody. So you may have a little trouble doing it. It may need a little bit of rearranging. And when I mean rearranging, let's say, for example, that it looks like most of the notes actually are in the chord that you're looking to play when it's over top of it there, right? But every now and then you may have to pick a note that's an octave above what that note is, or that's, you know, same note, so it'd still be a C, but you may have to grab one over here instead of down here, you know, or something like that. You may have to grab that C in a different spot. And if you're trying to look for notes, great way to do it, I do it all the time, is putting my snare tuner on the headstock. It doesn't just tune to the normal ukulele. You could play any note. And G sharp, look at that. I'm a savant. How'd I do it? I don't know. It's crazy. You know, so that can help you hunt down notes in another spot in the chord. So you could actually play the chord, like if you play a G, let's say you're looking for an E, right? Play the G. Okay, we've got G, D, G, B. So I need an E. So this note's a D, which means an E will be right here. See what I mean? Like I went two notes up from the D and I found an E. Does that make sense? So, and if you know, if you use the chord that's shown as a bass and then play that other note along with it, it'll sound right because it's part of the song, right? That note that's sung against that chord will sound right played in that chord. It may end up being a, you know, G sus2 or whatever, weird. You know, don't worry about that. Just play it if it sounds right, you know? I hope that helps a little bit. And we could go through, we could pick one of these Christmas songs and do more of a complex arrangement of it if everybody in the class kind of wants to try that. Or we could even do it, I know I see David does, I'm sure Vicky would probably want to do it. And I'm sure we could see it, or we could maybe do it like one of these Mondays, you know, like maybe next Monday we'll take a look at it and work through it that way. You know, because it's not super difficult. It's a verse and a chorus, so we could figure out something cool for that.
When I'm in on Wednesday, I will.
All right, everybody.
Thank
That'll
you.
do for the day. No problem,
Thank
Vicky.
Thanks,
No
Chris.
problem, everybody. You're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you learned something. It'll be up on YouTube and, you know, somewhere between 1 and 24 hours.
No
Bye,
rush.
everybody.
first.
All right.
Take
See
care.
you guys soon.
See you soon.